The night was cold, and the air crackled with an unexplainable tension. In the quiet suburban town of Pinebrook, 13-year-old Emily Harper was walking home after a late evening at her friend's house. She had taken this route 1,000 times before, but tonight, something felt different. The stars seemed unnaturally bright, their light piercing through the thin veil of clouds, as if they had a secret to share. Emily's footsteps echoed on the pavement, her sneakers tapping a rhythmic beat against the cold, unyielding concrete. A soft rustling in the bushes nearby made her pause. She turned her head sharply, her brown eyes scanning the dark, but there was nothing, just the stillness of the night. She shrugged it off and continued walking. But then came the hum. It was a low, resonating sound that seemed to emanate from everywhere and nowhere all at once. Emily stopped dead in her tracks. The hum grew louder, vibrating in her chest and making the hair on the back of her neck stand on end. Her heart raced as she looked up to see a strange, circular light descending from the sky. It hovered above her, illuminating the ground in an eerie, otherworldly glow. Before she could scream, a beam of light shot out from the craft and enveloped her. Her body felt weightless, and the world around her dissolved into a cascade of shimmering colors. Panic overtook her as she realized she was being pulled upwards, her screams swallowed by the strange, ethereal force. Then, everything went dark. When Emily awoke, she was no longer in Pinebrook. She found herself lying on a cold, metallic surface in a room bathed in a harsh, sterile light. Her wrists and ankles were bound by translucent restraints that seemed to hum with energy. The air was thick and artificial, carrying a faint metallic tang. Surrounding her were beings she could only describe as aliens. Their elongated heads and large, black, almond-shaped eyes stared down at her with an unsettling intensity. They spoke in a language she couldn't understand, a series of clicks and hums that reverberated in her skull. One of the beings approached her, holding a device that looked both intricate and terrifying. It pressed the device to her temple, and a sharp pain shot through her head. Emily's mind was flooded with images and sensations she couldn't comprehend. She saw vast, alien landscapes, towering structures of impossible geometry, and creatures unlike anything she had ever imagined. The pain was excruciating, but the aliens seemed indifferent to her suffering. They began their experiments, poking and prodding her with tools that glowed and buzzed. Her screams echoed in the sterile chamber, but there was no one to hear her. The aliens showed no emotion, their cold, unfeeling eyes fixed on their task. As the hours dragged on, Emily's body and mind were pushed to their limits. They injected her with strange substances, probed her with devices that emitted searing heat, and subjected her to an array of torturous procedures. She felt her life slipping away, her consciousness fading with every passing moment. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, her body gave out. Her heart stopped, and her eyes glazed over as she succumbed to the relentless torment. The alien stepped back, observing her lifeless form with a detached curiosity. One of them placed a device on her chest, and her body convulsed violently as a surge of energy coursed through her. But Emily did not awaken. The beings exchanged a series of clicks and hums, and then they left the room, leaving her lifeless body behind. 37 minutes later, something extraordinary happened. Emily's chest heaved as she drew in a sharp breath. Her eyes flew open, and she sat up abruptly, gasping for air. Her heart pounded in her chest, and her mind raced with confusion and fear. She looked around, her memories of the torture still vivid in her mind. But something was different. She felt stronger, sharper, as if her senses had been heightened. The room that had once felt oppressive and alien now seemed strangely familiar, as if she could understand it on a deeper level. She noticed patterns in the walls and the faint hum of energy coursing through the ship. She could hear the distant clicks and hums of the aliens, and to her astonishment, she understood them. Emily realized that she had changed. The aliens had done something to her, something that had brought her back to life and altered her in ways she couldn't yet comprehend. She tested her restraints, and to her surprise, they dissolved at her touch. She stood up, her legs shaky but functional, and began to explore the ship. The corridors were labyrinthine, filled with strange symbols and glowing panels. As she walked, she discovered more about her newfound abilities. She could sense the energy fields around her, manipulate them with her thoughts. Doors opened as she approached, and lights flickered to life at her command. She felt a growing sense of empowerment, a sharp contrast to the helplessness she had felt during her captivity. Eventually, Emily stumbled upon a chamber filled with holographic displays. She reached out, and the displays responded to her touch, showing her images of Earth and other planets. She realized the aliens had been studying humanity, observing them from the shadows. Anger bubbled up inside her as she thought about the torment they had inflicted on her and possibly others. Determined to find a way out, Emily continued her exploration. She came across a group of aliens and, to her surprise, they recoiled at the sight of her. Their clicks and hums were frantic, filled with fear and confusion. Emily raised her hand instinctively, and a surge of energy shot out, sending the aliens sprawling. She stared at her hand in shock, realizing she now possessed a power she didn't fully understand. Using her newfound abilities, Emily fought her way through the ship, evading capture and disabling the aliens' defenses. She finally found what she believed to be the control room, a sprawling chamber filled with glowing consoles and a massive viewport that showed the endless expanse of space. She approached the central console and placed her hands on it. The ship responded, its systems coming to life under her command. Emily focused her thoughts, willing the ship to take her back to Earth. The vessel shuddered as it changed course, its engines roaring to life. The aliens attempted to regain control, but Emily was too powerful. She held them at bay, using her abilities to disable their efforts. As the ship descended towards Earth, Emily felt a sense of triumph. She had survived the unthinkable, overcome unimaginable odds, and now she was returning home. But deep down, she knew she was no longer the same person. The aliens had changed her, given her abilities that set her apart from humanity. When the ship landed in a remote field outside Pinebrook, Emily stepped out and watched as the craft ascended into the sky, disappearing into the stars. She stood there for a moment, the cool night air filling her lungs, and then she began the long walk home. But her journey was far from over. Emily knew that the aliens' experiments had awakened something within her, something that would change her life forever. She didn't know what the future held, but she was determined to face it head-on, armed with the strength and resilience she had discovered within herself.